Haymaker Coffee Company was established in 2021 to create the best coffee to fuel the underdogs who perseveres, who hustles, and have the give-it-all mentality to achieve their American dream. Haymaker Coffee only roasts top quality, specialty grade coffee beans, resulting in brews that satisfies those who demand every drop from their coffee and day. If you work hard, run hard, fight hard, and play hard, we have your coffee right here.
And we're back, Stripe Show podcast on a Wednesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for making us part of your day. And if you're tuning in right now and you're watching on my YouTube channel, if you're not, you need to be, because our guest today, this is a first for the Stripe Show podcast. Joining me here with NBC Golf, John Wood. And the first is this backdrop. He's in Yellowstone, folks. And he's coming on the podcast. Look at that. How beautiful.
Pretty good stuff.
How beautiful is that, John?
Oh, it's great. I love it up here. It's my favorite place in the world. So I'm glad we got some connection here. We can do this out here.
I was thinking like you were going to be in this cabin of sorts and, you know, by a warm fire and we were going to be doing it. And he jumps on. He's like, how's this? I'm like, oh, my gosh. You know, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. So I took these mountain ranges for granted, you know, in Western Montana and Northern Idaho and obviously Yellowstone there. Wow, I'm sitting here at 77 degrees in Florida. And how refreshing is it to be out there just breathing that air, right? Just fills up your lungs.
It's the greatest.
What are you doing?
I would have been in a cabin, maybe by a fire earlier, if we hadn't had some good wolf activity earlier this morning. So we've been out here all morning watching that, and just caught a break to come do this.
So, like, what does that entail of? I mean, you're with some people, there's some guides, and you're watching some wolves right now?
Mostly just friends and guys I've got to know from Yellowstone who work here, some who just come here to watch the wolves. So, yeah, we just find the wolves in the morning, hopefully, and get our scopes out and watch for as long as they're in sight. And when they move, we go try and find them again.
So how long are you there? Is this like a week, 2 weeks? What is it?
I was here for a week before the Hero. And then went to the Hero, came straight back here, and I'll be here till December 15th or so.
Wow. All right, let's get some golf. I got a couple golf questions for you. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
You're coming back. Of course, John, former caddy for many, many years on the PGA Tour with NBC Golf, does a great job out there. I've got to ask you, as a caddy, going into live television, and it's not easy, right? I mean, people just think like live TV is like, well, I can't believe he said that or this happened. It's like, wait a minute. Like live TV is like one of the hardest things that you'll ever do. I remember when I learned it in morning drive and did it for 4 or 5 years. I mean, things are moving quickly, right? And it takes a while to get used to it. What's been the biggest learning curve for you, John? I mean, you're clearly a natural. You're doing a terrific job with it. But what's been the learning curve for you?
Well, thanks, Travis, for saying that. I really appreciate that. The biggest learning curve is trying to edit yourself, because a lot of times as a caddy, you know, you can say as long as you can talk as long as you want to your player to try and hit a perfect shot or the shot you think is the right shot. In television, it's very different. You have a sense of when they're coming to you, but you don't always know how much time you're going to have to explain the shot or what they're discussing. So a lot of times I'll have something that I think's very important to say, and in my mind it's going to take 15 to 20 seconds. Sometimes when they get to you, you're only going to have 5. So it's that mental juggle of figuring out, okay, how do I get this across and cut it down to 5 or 8 seconds instead of the 15 or 20 that I thought I would have. That's probably the toughest part, is just editing myself and being able to be succinct when I need to be.
Yeah, it's the fastest. Like, okay, you've got 30 seconds, right? I can remember in morning drive, like, hey, you got 2 minutes, go. And like, I literally felt like I said 8 words. So like, okay, wrap it up. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I just started talking.
That's
so,
exactly
you got 10 seconds. They're counting down. I'm like, oh man, I better wrap. Then they're like, okay, now stop talking. Switch it.
Yep.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a drug though. I mean, I miss it. I miss that energy, you know, it's coming to you, that anticipation, and then it comes to you and you know, like your voice is the only one being heard.
Absolutely.
And it's a drug.
It's great because as a caddy, you get that adrenaline rush, you know, when you're in the hunt and you got to make a big decision or advise your player on something very important. So when they come to you in those spots on late on a Sunday, it feels very much the same. Your adrenaline starts pumping. You want to get that information out there, and hopefully something that's not obvious to the viewer. Hopefully something a little deeper that the player and caddy are talking about. So it's a great similar adrenaline rush when you got to get that information across, succinctly and make it clear to the viewer.
So Bones McKay, he did it. Now he's back caddying again. I mean, is that
yeah? I think he got afraid of me coming to TV and just intimidating him, so he had to go back. No, Bones had a great opportunity with Justin Thomas, obviously, and Bones was fantastic at this, I thought, and he's obviously a great caddy. So, he's probably made the right choice for him.
Yeah, it's good perspective. I like the caddy narrative and the perspective and what you guys bring to the table out there. But from a caddying standpoint, John, you did it for a long time. What do you miss? I mean, what's as you look back, and what do you miss right there, in carrying the bag for your guys?
I don't miss the week in, week out. What I do miss are the majors for sure. The team events, those were my favorite by far. Love being in those locker rooms and those team rooms with everybody, and being in the hunt. Week in, week out on tour, you're not always in the hunt. Weekends can sometimes be not a drag at all, but just kind of you're going through the motions, knowing we're not in it, we don't have a chance to win. But those weekends that you had a chance to win a golf tournament, I definitely miss those as a caddy. But it's a lot of it's been replaced with a lot of things in TV that I'm enjoying, that I just didn't know about. That same kind of adrenaline rush, the good friendships, the teamwork, with all the announcers and everybody in the background. So I miss the team events and being in the hunt and the majors for sure.
So you caddied for Matt Kuchar, Hunter Mahan, Kevin Sutherland, Chris Riley, and Mark Calcavecchia. I miss anybody?
That's right. That's it. You got him.
So speaking of Golf Channel, I did a thing with Calc one time. This was a while back. I went down, saw him in Southern Florida. It was the playing lesson show, lessons. So I was the host and Calc was the player, and we wanted to do short game. And of course, Calc, hit this big high fade with his driver, and we did some of that. But we go to the short game area, and they're like, "Okay, let's just go ahead and set up. Hey, Calc, where do you want to set up?" He's like, "Oh, this is fine right here. Let's just set up here." And I'm looking down, and it's John. It's like this, like really wet area, kind of Bermuda, like the grass is kind of late, sticky, just a sticky area. I'd be like, "No." And he's like, "Just put a balls on right here." Yeah. I'm like, well, why don't we just come over here? It's a little bit drier. He's like, "No, we'll just do it right here." And I'm like, oh my God, if I was hitting shots on TV right now, there's no chance in the world I would ever pick this spot.
Calc has some of the best hands I've ever seen.
So he puts the balls down, right? And off we go. We're running. And he's going through how he does it. And John, he hit balls for probably 20 to 30 minutes in this one area. And when we were done, you couldn't even tell that we were there because the club came in, it's just clipped it. The bounce just brushed the ground every time. When
I worked for him, it was interesting because a lot of guys, they'll vary the club they hit depending on the shot. Calc did not. He used that Ping I2L wedge for almost every shot, and he would just vary his stance and ball position, way up, way back, hook it, cut it. His hands were just amazing. So, even chip and runs, he would just throw that L wedge way back in his stance, and he felt like his touch was so good with it. He just didn't mess around. So, some of the best hands I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you guys, he didn't miss a shot. Like it was just clipped perfectly. The distance control. I mean, all these balls are like right there, and I'm just looking down at that grass every time he hit it. I just I know I'd get the leading edge in the ground.
Oh yeah,
at least one every 3 or 4 times, at least.
I'd be bringing that putter out real quickly.
Let me ask you this. Matt Kuchar, you spent a lot of time with him, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, Kuchar ran through the ringer in Mexico, right? With, this tip situation. And some people look at Kuchar and they're like, is he really authentic? Who is this guy, right? Tell my audience, John, tell my audience about Matt Kuchar, the guy he is.
He's a really good guy. He's a guy who you wouldn't think, but he loves to give the needle. He loves to get the needle. He loves it when people give it back to him, players or caddies or whatever. Really good sense of humor. he's got a great family, loves to, they're constantly doing things, going on trips and traveling. His two boys are amazing athletes, as is his wife, Sibby. I had a great time working for Matt. I don't have a bad word to say about him. We just had a lot of fun together. Our personalities matched very well, on and off the course. And it was a really unfortunate situation. And Matt, has admitted he handled it poorly, and obviously fixed it and fixed the problem, and realized what he did that was wrong, and ended up paying David, he felt bad about it. I don't think he realized it for a while, how big a deal it was, but once he did realize it, he did everything he could to make the situation right. So I had a blast working for Cal. No complaints whatsoever.
Kuchar's a big dude. I mean, he's like 6'3", 6'4". And he takes a pretty conservative backswing. Sometimes I just want to go up to Kuch and just be like, all right, man, just take your right hip, turn it back, let that left shoulder come across, reach back and rip this thing.
I know, and he's capable of it. When there were times like at Augusta when he really worked on a high draw, and he hit it great for the week, but he doesn't like losing control. He feels a little bit out of control when he does that. So he's capable of it, but he prefers that something he knows he's in control of.
He's won 9 times. I mean, people forget. I mean, Matt Kuchar's won 9 times. His last wins, he won twice, 2018-19, won Mayakoba, and then he won Sony. But he's got wins at the RBC Heritage. He won the Memorial, which I remember like it was yesterday. Of course, I remember the Players Championship back in 2012.
Been on a bunch of team events, and he's been a very successful career.
Yeah, Kuchar's always been a guy. He's like me. Like he's a guy that I think learned golf not to hit it hard. I'm the same size, 6'3", 6'4". Like I think we learn a kind of more technique, control it, fade, but not like, reach back and hit it at a young age. And then that can kind of carry you in, and then you can tighten it up. And I'm the same way. Like I don't hit it as far as I should. I'm a big guy. I work out. Kuchar's a big guy, and he hits it out there 293. And that's long. Don't get me wrong. Like, my audience is like, what? Like I'll take 293 right now. But you know what I'm saying? Like comparatively speaking, this dude could carry it 310 if he wanted to.
Absolutely. Very similar to like Nick Faldo. And Faldo's a huge man, and just never. He was a control guy. Wanted control of it, wanted it in the short grass, and that's just how he learned to play and how he played his best.
Who did Kuch needle? Do you have any funny stories? Was he like always trying to needle you, or was it other players, or was it like everybody's like Tiger, like it's just fair game for everybody?
Everybody was fair game, but his number one target was definitely Phil. And Phil used to say that Kuch is the one guy that had his number. He never had very many good comebacks for Phil. But one I remember in particular, I wasn't working for him at the time, but at the President's Cup at Muirfield that one year, Kuch was playing with Tiger. So they get on the first hole, and Kuch makes birdie. I think it was best ball. And they're walking off the green, one up, obviously. And Kuch takes his hands like he's driving a big steering wheel, turning back and forth with a big smile, looking at Tiger. And Tiger says, "What are you doing?" And Kuch says, "I'm driving the school bus because I'm taking you to school today, Tiger." So stuff like that he loved to do. He needed to be entertained and interested on the golf course. So he would constantly be doing that kind of thing to entertain himself more than anything.
Glenfiddich, the world's most awarded single malt Scotch whiskey, is expertly crafted and made with extraordinary care. Each single malt is a work of perfection.
What you mentioned Phil, I mean, obviously everybody right now there's a lot of fans scratching their head about Phil, like my parents being one of them. My mom loves Phil Mickelson. I mean, always loved him. And now she's like left out there like, I don't know what to think, and everything that he's done and said. Now he's going to live, and like, why is he trying to tear the PGA Tour down? It seems personal, and maybe some things off the course that we're learning about Phil. So everybody's just like, what do we make of Phil? But we know Phil the competitor, Phil the player, Phil on the golf course was is one of the best players of all time. I mean, he's right there in the top 10. He's the second best player, certainly in the generation, next to Tiger. If Tiger wasn't there, how many times does Phil win? You know, Phil's won what, 45 times. So, I mean, your time out there on tour, can you shed some light on maybe, you know, Phil, not only Phil the player, but Phil off the course?
I always got along great with Phil. You know, being real close with friends with Bones over the years, we got to do a lot of stuff together. So, you know, I always got along really well with Phil. He was a smart guy, a thoughtful guy, and fun to be around. But I'm kind of in the boat of a lot of other people. You know, I hate to say he's tarnished his legacy, but I just worry that his legacy in the eyes of the public has gone down with the recent move to live, and what he said about the tour and things like that. So I don't know what's going to happen in the long run. I don't know how this is all going to turn out, and whether I'm completely wrong about that or not. I don't have a feeling for it. But I do know that, you know, he was one of the fan favorites for sure. I'm not so sure he's that anymore.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's that anymore. He certainly doesn't have, you know, the crowd that he used to, right? I mean, and obviously he's not out there walking inside the ropes on the PGA Tour anymore. And all of this just kind of, you know, once it started, right, John, it just started, the snowball just got bigger, and here it comes, you know, literally down the hill here.
No, I know.
And it was the next thing after the next thing after the next thing. And so it's just kind of hard to weed through who is Phil Mickelson, right? And we know who he is, the player, but who is he deep down? Do you know if does Bones still stay in touch? Do you know, or do they have conversation? Because I know, like, a lot of players, I live in Ponte Vedra, and there's a lot of players here, and they don't talk to him anymore. There's a lot of players, they don't talk to him anymore. I was curious if, you know, if Bones still chats with him.
No, I don't think they're in touch.
Yeah.
I think that they're, you know, when the relationship on the course was severed, I think a friendship was as well. So I don't think they're in touch too much.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on the elevated schedule? You know, obviously we're going now into 2023, and the PGA Tour is changing its direction. We talk a lot about it here on the podcast, where I think the direction, John, was just more tournaments, and all of a sudden we're up to 46. And and now it's, okay, wait a minute. Now we got to go elevated events, because we got to lead more with our stars, and we got to get them out there and really showcase what is going to be these, 18 events somewhere in there. What's your thoughts on that?
You know, I think what people need to remember is it's going to evolve. This is their first shot and their first guess at what's going to work. It will evolve from this point, whether they'll have more or less, or there'll be elevated events that more people can get into. But as a fan, I'm a fan of it. I've always thought that the tour maybe catered a little bit too much and worried a little bit too much about playing opportunities and the middle of the road guys.
I agree.
I think this move to really, elevate and feature the guys who bring eyes to the TVs, the guys who sell tickets. I think it's the right way to go. And like I said, I think it will evolve in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And it won't look exactly like it does right now. But I think you have to feature the reason you're successful. And the reason you're successful is guys like Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas and Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler and the big names who, you know, bring fans to the tournaments, bring eyes to the TV. And it's why people tune in. And if you're going to get, you know, usually during the year, you'd have maybe 5 events where you had all the big players, the majors and the Players Championship. Now you're going to look at 18 events throughout the year where all the best players are going to be playing together. I think that's a win for the fans personally. And what I always used to, when people used to argue about the world events and people who, you know, the elevated players who were in them already and got points for nothing or whatever like that. My answer to that was always, though none of those players were born into those tournaments. They all played their way in. And you can play your way into the elevated events. You aren't banned from them. You might not be in them initially, but play better and you'll be in them. So it's not like it's a mystery how you get into them. You play great golf and you will be there. So I think it's good for the PGA Tour, and I think it's really good for the fans.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I think it's I think the tour is probably going to have some explaining to do to some of these other tournaments, and I'm sure there's going to be some fallout from that. But I agree. I've always thought that we're getting too watered down, and we're catering too much to playing opportunities, and we're not leading with our stars enough, because the PGA Tour, it needs to lead with these names and these stars and these faces, and they're going to be there. No different than turning the NFL on Sunday. All right, let's finish up with this, and I'll let you go. I'm not sure what I saw crawling behind you over there. Right? They're wolves. Are they in bed right now, or they can't be out and about yet, are they?
The wolves are bedded right now. In the middle of the day, they kind of take the day off and sleep down. But there's definitely some moose, and even this late in the year, we saw a grizzly the other day. So there's a couple of those out still that haven't gone into hibernation. So if you see anything behind me, let me know.
Okay, I will. I'll keep an eye out here on this last segment. All right. You watch the best players in the world in person. You've been doing it for many, many years. So for my audience, they're going to go to an event next year. All right. My audience, we're going to go check out the Honda, or we're going to go to the American Express or the St. Jude, whatever. From a ball striking standpoint, let's start with the driver.
Okay.
Who's a must? You got to go watch this dude hit the driver, because he is ridiculous.
Right. I would say Justin Thomas, and not because he's super long, but Justin Thomas is a guy, he's so old school in the way he approaches the driver. He hits high draws. If it calls for it, he hit a low cut, high cut. He really works the ball, and not many people do that anymore with the driver. It's tee it high, swing as hard as you can, low spin, high trajectory, and go find it. But I love watching Justin Thomas hit a driver just because he's not afraid to work it. And I think for real golf fans, that's fun to watch.
Rory's the obvious one. I mean,
Rory's a joke.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's a joke.
You might as well go watch a video game, watching, because that's how Rory drives it. It's breathtaking. He's the best driver of the ball in the world for sure. High, slight draw. He cuts it now. He moves it as well, but I think he's the best driver of the ball ever.
So iron game, JT, you certainly could put right there. I mean, that dude's elite. I'll tell you the player that I like watching hit on the range, and I hope he doesn't go to live, is Mito Pereira with his irons.
Yeah, very good ball striker.
That dude's swing is pure. I sit there and watch that guy, and it's like, damn.
Yeah. Obviously, if Tiger happens to be playing, Tiger's the best iron player of all time, period. Exclamation point, no question about it. But I like watching Patrick Cantlay a lot. He's so efficient with his golf swing. There's no wasted movement. I love watching Xander Schauffele hit irons as well. Xander, to me, is kind of a classic, more elegant golf swing. It's a little bit longer. It's got a flow to it. Jordan Spieth, I love watching Jordan Spieth hit irons. So those are three guys I would off the top of my head come to my mind.
You go to the short game, and obviously Scotty Scheffler has exceeded my expectations. One of the things I like to do, John, is on the podcast, is give people names to think about as they're coming out, and try to get out in front of the Sam Burns. Like, he was a player that I thought would transfer well. I've been big on Mito as he came out. And he almost won the PGA and lost to JT. And when Scheffler came out, all right, his driver you knew was good, and he was going to have his moments putting. I didn't know if he was an elite iron player. I think he's exceeded my expectations there. But that dude's short game is sick. Like, that guy.
It is.
Short game is so good.
Yeah, and a lot of times you don't notice it because he hits so many greens.
Right.
Sometimes you don't notice it, but he hit a shot last week. I was in the last group on Sunday. On the 15th hole, he came up just short of this par 5, and they had ceased playing lift, clean, and play. So he had this, like you were describing with Calc, a bare lie on some Bermuda that was still a little wet, super grainy. Ball is well below the surface of the green, not a lot of green to work with, and I'm looking at it like, I think a lot of guys would have immediately reached for the putter. And if it goes 10 feet, it goes 10 feet. But he opened up his L wedge and just cut the legs on this thing. His club head got past the ball so quickly. I didn't think there was a heck he could stop it short of the hole, but he hit it too good. And he spun it 5 feet short of the hole. And even he said, how did I spin that much? He said that to Teddy. So I think his short game is just, it's a wonder.
You go to the flat stick. right? I mean,
Mhm.
you know, some of the best putters. I mean, like most consistent putters. Guys who all these guys are capable of getting on a run. Like when JT gets on a heater, it's like stop what you're doing, turn the TV on and watch because the guy's
Yeah.
going to birdie every single hole. Like he just has
Yeah.
that capability of going. And Cantlay's got a little bit of that unconscious feel to
Yep.
him, you know, as well, where he can get it going. Is there any strokes out there you're just like, my God, it's so good?
It's not even the stroke. But it's Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
That guy to me is the greatest 20-foot and longer putter of all time. You know, he's had small struggles from short distances, and he's changed that, looking at the hole, not looking at the hole. But that guy, and I've said it on the air before when I've been following him, when he makes one 22-footer, I truly believe his mind goes blank, and he's like Steph Curry. It's like, just feed me because I see the line right away. And I'm going to put perfect speed on it and I'm going to make it. I've never seen anybody putt long putts like Jordan Spieth, and I'm talking over 20 feet because they all have, you know, perfect speed. And by perfect speed, they all get to the hole, but none of them go past like a foot or 18 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's a phenomenal reader of greens. And when he gets in that zone, I really feel I watch him like Steph Curry. It's just, you know, get out of the way and let him go because he's going to make everything.
This Taylor Montgomery, this young guy, he bombs it, and his putter is so good too. Like I was out there in Vegas, and I said, I think Montgomery's the new best putter on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
He's a guy to watch next year. I really think as we get out in front with some of these players, I like that guy's game a lot. He nukes it off the tee. I think he could probably be a better iron player, but let me tell you something. He can fill it up. I mean, with the best of them. So he's another guy that I'd put in there. All right, John, I can't thank you enough. Give me one more pan of this.
All right, one more pano of what I'm
Look
looking
at
at out here. So I'm at a place called Elk Creek. So you're just overlooking a big valley.
Wow.
There's a couple lakes out there, and it's just a stunning part of the world. If you haven't been to Yellowstone before, put it on your bucket list.
John, thank you for your time. When you're at the Players, I want you to spend some time here. Come to see my new studio.
I would love to.
Got some cool stuff here.
Travis.
Love to show you.
Absolutely. We'll schedule a time. I will definitely make time for it.
All right, John Wood, NBC Sports, coming from Yellowstone, first on the Stripe Show podcast. Thank you.
PXG has done it again with the launch of a new lineup of drivers, fairways, hybrids, and irons. The new Gen 5 golf clubs deliver significantly increased MOI, faster ball speeds, longer distances, and tighter dispersions, all coupled with the exceptional feel and sound golfers have come to expect from PXG. Schedule your custom fitting or buy online at pxg.com.